Hi, I'm Kerrie from Living in Loveliness, and today I'm going to show you how to insert a zip. So we're going to make this super easy for you, so you've always got this to refer back to if you're struggling with your zips. I know a lot of people avoid putting zips in because they're not entirely sure how to do this, but I'm going to make this really easy for you. And my best advice when inserting zips is to use a glue pen as well. So it really does help if you can glue your zip into place, and then you haven't got to worry about popping your pins in and removing your pins when you're sewing across there. So we're going to make a really simple zip purse, and this pattern is in my Fabulously Fast Fat Quarter Fun issue 1, and in there you've got bunting, super simple zip and a little pleated bag in that collection. And what we're using is we've got 2 pieces of fabric here, so these are our 2 outer pieces of fabric. These are beautiful Riley Blake fabrics, and we've got these, and these are, let me just remind myself, these are 8 inches wide by 4 inches. So we've got 2 8 by 4 inches for the outer fabric, and then we've got 2 8 by 4 inches for your lining fabric. Now I'm not interfacing these or putting any stabilizer on because I want to keep this tutorial nice and simple, but also this is a really thick fabric, so it's thick enough to work with. If you're using polycottons, then of course you can put your stabilizer on there. You'll notice that I've got just a piece of scrap fabric just pattern facing up. In fact, it doesn't matter, it's just a scrap piece of fabric. And what I'm going to do first of all is have the fabrics on my flowers. If you've got a direction, make sure, so you can see my flowers are pointing up, so it's along the top where I want to attach the zip, because there is nothing worse than inserting the zip and then realising your pattern's upside down. So have this on the table, pattern facing you. That's really important at this stage, making sure you know where the top of your fabric is. And nice and simply, you can see my glue stick's well used. What we're going to do, first of all, when you're inserting your zip, make sure your zip opens and closes, because again, there's nothing more frustrating than inserting your zip and realising your zip is broken, which sometimes happens. So we want to make sure our zip is open almost to the centre or in the centre, it really doesn't matter. And what we're doing using the glue is we're popping some glue along the raw edge of the zip with the zipper facing us. So it's important that your zipper at this stage is facing you. We've put that glue along the top, and what we want to do now is just, the reason I've got the scrap fabric is this glue tends to dry and get everywhere, and we don't want to get it onto our work surface. What we're doing now, this is a 7-inch zip, so we're popping this on top. So we're now aligning the edge of the zipper, or the raw edge of the zipper, and you can peel it off and pop it on. It's essential that this is spot on. Okay, you can see here that my zipper is just reaching to the edge. We're making sure, so by just pressing on top, we're making sure that that's sitting along the edge of the fabric. Making sure your zipper's halfway open, and then taking your lining fabric, the next stage we're going to use your glue, pop your glue along the edge of that fabric again, and this time I've got a plain fabric, but if you've got a pattern, make sure it's pattern facing down at this point. Mine's a plain fabric, but if you're using a pattern, just to remind you, make sure it's pattern facing down. And all we're doing is pressing that, so each of those 3 raw edges are lining up, and just give that a good little press. Keep moving it until you get it in the right place. That's the best thing really about working with your glue, is you can lift it and you can move it as much as you want to. So now what we've got is we've got your zip sandwiched in between those 2 fabrics. Your zipper is facing your outer fabric, you've then got your zip, and then you've got your lining fabric. Then what we're going to do is we're going to change our foot on the sewing machine. So to change your foot on the sewing machine, what you'll notice, most machines have this little hook on the back, so if you pinch onto that, what will happen, if you push onto that, it will knock the last foot off. So move that foot out of the way for now, just make sure that you're keeping that close by. And then what we want to do on here is there is a bar on your zipper foot, and we want to line that up beneath with that and drop to collect your foot. So as you drop that lever now, it will pick up that zipper foot. And the way you know how to position your zipper is you want the edge, so the inside here we're working with because of the zipper foot that I'm using with the machine, we want to line this up so this is coming in line with our zipper. You can feel your zipper underneath. Now you don't need any pins in here, and we drop the foot. What you'll also notice here is the side of the zipper foot aligns with the raw edge of your fabric. And it's as simple as that. We're making sure we're on a straight stitch. We can feel through the fabric that it's lining up. And we also know the side of the zipper foot is going to run along the raw edge. At this stage, it'll change in a moment. And all we want to do, nice and slow on there, is sew along. Now, a little top tip for you, use a pin that will stand out on your fabric. In fact, if I just remove this off here to show you exactly what I'm doing. Just slide a pin through your fabric. I mean, we can see through this fabric because it's a lightweight fabric. But we know here, this pin now is just before the zip. So we know when we're going to stop. So let's just take those threads out and let's just do that stage again. So we're dropping the foot, trapping the fabric in between. I've got a little kink on there. Aligning the side of the zipper footer up with the edge, the raw edge of our fabric. And we're going to sew slowly. Take your time with this, there's no need to rush. Now you can see that I can see that pin is coming into contact. I don't want to push it and make it difficult for myself. I want to make this as easy as possible. So I'm going to drop my needle into the fabric, remove that pin, just pop that out of the way for now, lift up the zipper foot by raising the foot and open that zipper. So you might need to turn it and wiggle it about a little bit. But as you open that zipper now, it is completely out of the way. So the zipper now is down here. And what we want to do is sew along to the edge of our project. And really, when you're inserting a zip, you're just sewing a straight line. So trim away your excess fabric. And what you can see now is we've got that zipper opened out of the way. Our line hasn't wiggled about, and that's because we've followed those steps. We've left that, we left that pin in there so we knew when to stop. And again, now when you fold these fabrics back, we will expose that beautiful zip just sitting nice and snug in there. So what we want to do now, and this part is crucial, so we're just going to press this into position. So we're just going to press this flat so we're not fighting to get this back through the machine. So take your time, make sure your iron is on a low setting and take your time because we don't want to have the iron too high so we're not burning any of the fabrics. And now we've done that. So I'm going to show you another little top tip that I would do here again to prevent that from moving. So again, you could put your pins in, or again, just on the inside, we can just run another little glue line along there. And as we push this, that's now going to hold that fabric in place as we sew across. You can, of course, if you want to, pop it onto the back. So this really is a technique if you're looking to make inserting zips even easier. Okay, your other option that you could do, now we've glued these in place so they are holding in place, but if you wanted to, you could just slide your pins. And what that does is make sure that keeps your fabric out of the way of your pin and just stops that fabric from folding together as we're sewing along there. So I'm going to do all three so you have the option when you're inserting your zips. So bringing that back towards us now, we're setting this back up on the machine. Now this time we're not running along the raw edge of the fabric. You'll notice we've turned it slightly. And this time the inside of the zipper foot is running along my zipper. Now of course you can actually physically see the zip this time. So what we're doing is sewing along until we get almost close to the zip. And then we're going to stop, drop our needle in, lift our foot and close the zip. So by leaving the needle in your zipper, it just means that you haven't got any movement in that stitch line. And that's it, nice and simple. We've got that first section of your zipper inserted. You can probably see that a little bit clearer from the back. So because we've not moved any pins, we haven't had to worry about you know, moving our fabric as we go. So to pop the other side on, nice and easy, we're going to follow the same process. So this time we're going to have our fabric. Again, make sure your fabric, the top of your fabric is sitting so you know where the top is and that the pattern is facing you. We're going to put our glue, close our zip halfway, run the glue alongside the zip, pop your lid back on, and this time we're bringing the zip to the fabric. So the right side of the zip is going to the right side of the fabric, and we're just gluing that and moving the fabric until it's in line with the raw edge of the fabric. And again, you can lift and move that as many times as you need to. If the glue dries out, which sometimes it might, just reapply your glue. So we've popped the glue on the top of the zip this time, so it's the wrong side. And again, we're now going to line up that fabric. This time we need to be really careful to line it up along the top edge of the zip and also make sure it's in line with the sides. And again, we're going to line that up on the sewing machine, popping that pin in, remembering to pop that pin in. So just pop the pin through so you know where your zip is. You'll be able to feel that through your fabric. And you're going to stop just as you come in contact with that pin. Lift your needle if it's down, line this up. So the inside of the zipper foot is touching your zip and the outside of your zipper foot is running along the raw edge of your fabric. We're sewing towards the pin, not making life hard for ourselves, stopping, dropping your needle, removing your pin. That pin really is just a guideline for you. Now this time we want to feel through, so again we might need to just lift that foot, we might need to move it around and pivot it, but we're just finding the zip and closing the zip. Drop your foot and then continue to sew that straight line all the way to the end of your zipper. When you get to the end, just take away your excess thread. It's important that you're pressing your fabrics here. So this time I'm going to show you this side without the glue. So we're just opening the fabrics to expose that zip. So we've got that lovely inserted zip. We're going to press those fabrics now and then just turn them over. It's really important that you check your lining because sometimes we forget to check the lining and that can often get caught up in there. So this time I'm going to show you by just popping the pins in without that little tip that I gave you with the glue. So we're sliding the pins in and I'm sliding the pins really so they point towards my zip, and the reason for that is as I sew along my hand will just roll across these pins. They're not close enough to come into contact with the needle, so don't worry about moving those at this point. Okay, so again what we want to do is set this up so the inside of the zipper foot is meeting with the zip, so it's in line with the zip or touching the zip as close as you can get that there. Let's just get rid of a little bit of that cotton. Okay, let's just do that stage again. So just sitting that under the machine and then sewing along. Remember, you can see your zip this time. So when you're getting close to the zip, you don't have to be on top of the zip to stop. Put your needle in, lift your foot. I find it easier if I pivot the project out of the way, open the zip and realign that zipper now and sew to the edge. And trim away your excess cotton. So we now have that zip inserted and top stitched. That's a nice fast process. And to complete this project, what we're going to do, again, we're going to close that zipper halfway because we want to be able to turn this in a moment. And we're going to open the fabrics. So our outer fabric or our pattern fabrics touching the pattern fabric, and the lining fabric is touching the lining fabric. Now naturally as you do that, your zipper will push towards your lining, and this bit here is absolutely crucial. So if you just look quite closely there, the zipper is pointing in towards my lining, and as I roll this out on top of each other, what we can do now is we can pop a pin either side of that zipper. Make sure those pins are a good finger space back and you haven't got to worry about removing them as you sew. So let's just do that stage again. So roll that out and slide your pins. So it's important that you put your pins in on your zip first and you get your zip to the place that you want it to push in. So as you can see, I've pushed the zipper in towards the lining and I've popped a pin either side of that zip. Then I'm going to do the same on the other side as well. I get rid of any loose threads at this point to stop them knotting up as you sew around in a moment. And you're pushing your zipper in towards the lining and popping 2 pins either side of your zip. Just make sure that lining is out of the way. And all of these little steps will really help, and the more you do this, the easier it will get. So now we've got your pins on either side of your zip, and what we want to do now is to just make sure the raw edges of our lining match. And I'm pinning and I'm using my pins as arrows, and I do that to remind me where I'm going to sew. I do that on every project, and the same on the lining. So we've pinned those into position, and now we're going to pin the little zipper into position, lining up those raw edges. And then in a moment what we're going to do is pop a turning gap in there using our ruler. What we want to do now, just on this ruler, is mark up, lost my pen. So I can't find my fabric pen. What I'm going to do is just use 2 pins. So I'm just going to point 2 pins. I feel lost without my fabric pen. We're just going to put 2 pins where we're going to leave our turning gap. And we really want that about 2.5 inches because we need to pull the zip through there. Okay, so those 2 pins there, if you've not got a heat erasable pen close by or don't have one at all, you can start sewing, and where we're actually sewing is starting at the 2 pins all the way around across the zip, and again until we get back to those double pins there. Okay, so changing your foot back to your other foot now, just pressing on the lever at the back, and then as you drop your lever you'll come down and collect up your other foot as well. So we're always going to reverse stitch to start. So any start and stop point we always reverse stitch. Just take away any excess thread so it doesn't knot up as you sew. Okay, when you get to the corner, it's important that you leave your pin or your needle in. So drop your needle and pivot your fabric. Now when you come into your zip, if you're worried about sewing over there because you have got little metal pieces, get as close as you can, and you can literally hand crank your machine and feel that go across. Especially if you're new to inserting zips, you'll find that being able to do that that'll really help you there. So again, we're sewing to the next corner, dropping your needle and pivoting again. And we're sewing all the way around now until we get back to those double set of pins. The same on the opposite side as well if you want to stop and just hand crank across there. So stop when you get close, and actually if you feel that it comes into contact with your zip, or it comes into, especially the metal part, if you're using a metal zip, then of course you can slowly go over there or even skip beyond that. And now we're approaching that other double pin and we're going to reverse stitch. So take this off your machine now, take away your excess thread and remove all of your pins. I keep my pins further enough back, so I tend not to move them as I'm sewing around, really just to speed up the process of the project that you're making. And now we've got this little gap, and what we're going to do is reach through that zipper. We've left the zipper open, remember. In fact, we'll just clip the corners. So to clip your corners, we're just clipping on both sides. You can if you want to, or you might prefer to clip across there, but I quite like to clip either side, and then you get a nice finish on your project. So you're clipping in almost to the sew line, but not close enough that your stitching's going to come undone. Once you've done that on all 4 sides now, what we want to do is just poke our fingers through the project, reach to the furthest point, pinch onto your fabric and reverse this through. So now we're going to tease that out nice and gently. And what you'll be left with is this little gap. Now you could absolutely, so open your zip at this point, let's make life easy for ourselves. Open your zipper at this point, and what we want to do, this little gap that we've got inside where we left for our turning gap, we're going to slide some pins through. And I'm going to slide in just 3 pins there. Make sure that seam is pushed in on the inside. And we're just going to sew across. So what I'm going to do now, at the start of the gap, reverse stitch, sew along, and at the end of the gap, reverse stitch again, just to make sure that hole doesn't come open. Of course, you could hand stitch this to finish if you don't want to see your sewing, and to be honest, I probably would, but for the tutorial, we're going to sew straight across there. Trim away all your excess thread and remove your pins. And what you have there is a really cute, either a little pencil case, little makeup bag. Push these open and you'll notice, if you look nice and closely, you've got the metal part of your zipper exposed there, which I really like. Give this a little press to finish, and you've got your first little zipper. If you're new to inserting zips or worried about inserting zips, then I recommend having a go at doing a few of these little purses, and you'll find you become quite addicted. So for more tutorials from me or from other members at Hochanda, pop along to their Hochanda channel to see lots of top tips and tutorials. Thank you ever so much.